In this video we're going to show you the custom rule option in Xian Network Manager IO R2. For this example we've already added a HP per curve switch that you can see here. We're going to add a custom rule. It's very simple. You click on rule, add custom rule. In this case we click on HP per curve switches, and then Wizard will help you setting this up. In this case we're going to give it custom rule CPU as a name, and actually use the same as a title, custom rule CPU, and we can put it as a description. This retrieves the CPU load. You have to click that it's a performance rule. You have the option for incremental performance rule and also status rule. Then we have to set up some performance parameters. In this case we have to say if it's an alert on and over the threshold or under the threshold. In this case we're going to stick to that. Since it's CPU load we have to put a maximum threshold value to 100 since it's 100%. The default maximum we put on 70%. We don't do any alert under the threshold. The minimum threshold value we put on 0. And we have to change the units to percentage. Then we have to set up if we want to use automatic thresholding. In this case we're going to enable it, and we're going to leave it to the default setting of 48 data points. We also will enable fine-tuning or data optimization. And also here we leave it to the default values. Now, last thing, very important, you have to say which applicable element it is in this case. Well, we're executing it over the SNMP device element. And under which category do you want to add to the rule? In this case, CPU load would fit fine under the general category. Now we have to set up the expression. You can do this manually here in this editor, or you can also launch an extended version in this expression editor. Well, by default there's already one OID defined, but we're going to create our own one. We're going to call it CPU load. Well, there's nothing defined here, so I only have to pass the OID of the CPU load. Well, I searched this one before this video in the MIB file of the HP per curve switch. Now we'll go back to the main part, and this my OID, I'm going to replace it with the CPU load one. Well, you can do all kinds of things here. Just for this video we're going to divide the CPU load by 2. You will see later in Operations Manager how this will look like. Clicking OK. The XML blob here is updated, and actually that's it. Well, finally you can set up some alert data. This is information that appears in Operations Manager when the alert arrives. So you can set up here the summary. For example, the CPU load is over threshold, comments or links. And actually that's it. Now we click finish, and the rule is being created. Well, before we can really start using it, we have to create the management pack for this rule, which is very simple. Just save it on the desktop, exporting it. Then you go to System Center Operations Manager, you go to Administration, you go to Import Management Packs, and you click on Add from Disk. Well, here we have already the just created management pack. I open this and I install it. Normally it shouldn't take more than a few seconds. There we go. We did close. Well, if we go now back to the monitoring part, we see that the HP per curve switch is on a healthy state. Okay, let's go back to the Xian console and let's add this new created custom rule. I open the device properties, I go to the active rules, and I add this custom created rule. If I click here on the right side, you see that we have a normal CPU load rule, CPU usage. That's the default CPU load rule that comes with the management pack. And I also have a custom rule that we just created. Well, I'm going to drag and drop this custom rule to the policy part. You see that an easy wizard helps you setting this up. Well, first I have to set up thresholding. As you can see, I can use here automatic threshold, but I'm going to stick to the manual threshold. Also for this occasion, I'm going to put the threshold on a lower value to show you how the alert arrives in Operations Manager. So I'm going to put this on 20%. Then I have to set up the schedule. I'm going to reduce this one to every minute. I can change the active rule options. So I go to the alert severity, for example, put it on critical. And I can do, like in any other way, I can add also information to the name. In this case, I'm just adding word demo. That optimization I leave to the default settings. Okay, click finish. And the custom rule is being executed. Now that this rule is running, it is already retrieving information from the device with the custom rule settings and sending that to Operations Manager. Okay, now let's see how everything arrives in Operations Manager. We're going to close the sign console. You can see here that the HP Procure switch turned into a critical state. Let's take a look at what is causing this critical state. We go for the alert view. And we see here custom rule CPU alert. We see here custom rule CPU demo is over threshold, completely correct. We see here the threshold on 20%, current value is 31.5%. Also below here we see the knowledge that we also added to that manager pack. CPU load is over threshold, caused too much activity, resolutions, reduce the switch load. Well, beside that the custom rule can send an alert, it also sends performance counters. So let's take a look at the performance view. You can see all the different counters that Xian is sending to Operations Manager. Pay attention to the top two one. First is the CPU usage, which is a rule that comes by default with Xian Network Manager. The second one is the custom rule CPU that we just created. See that the custom rule CPU is on half of the level of the standard CPU load rule. This is because we divided it by 2. Okay, this is a small overview of what you can do with custom rules in Xian Network Manager. In this case we created a custom rule for CPU load, but you can create rules for all kinds of other alerts and monitoring capabilities. Thank you, goodbye.